Hi, and welcome to Push Reset Parent Support Group, a space for parents to come and listen to some wonderful feedback of how to deal with and work through this pandemic that we're going through. I have two special guests with us today, and I'm very, very excited for them to be here to give their expertise about just how to deal with working through this time. And always know that it's not just this time of crisis that we're going through, but any time in our lives where we feel uneasy about things, or we are not really focused as to what the next role will turn into for us. And so it's very, very important that we are knowledgeable of how to deal with things and work through everything that comes about in a positive light. And so we'll be talking about that briefly, but as usual, we're going to start today off with our meditation. Um, the scripture that I'm going to read today comes from Psalms 37, 4 through 5, and it reads, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass." As human beings, it's hard from time to time to really focus on God when we're in tough situations, but we always have to lean on him. We should really put that into practice, to lean on him, and he will definitely guide us and help us along the way. He may not answer the prayer right when you are praying at that moment, but he will answer it eventually. And as the saying goes in most of our Southern Black churches, he may not show up when you want him, but he's always on time. And so I just want to reiterate that to you all. So if you would bow your head for a moment of prayer as we begin this group. Lord, thank you for another wonderful day that you have bestowed upon us. Another day to do your will, Lord, to get focused on you and allow you to just dwell in our lives. Lord, I thank you for the many things that you have done for all of us, Lord. And I pray for those that are experiencing pain, Lord, those that are temporarily removed from truly trusting and understanding you, Lord. It is the pain that they're going through that they need you the most, Lord. And I pray for those that are experiencing this, Lord, that they will come back to you and understand that you will handle it, that you will help them through it, and that you will strengthen them during this time. I also pray for those across this country that are upset and angry, Lord. It's okay to be upset and angry, but we really, really need to focus on doing this in the right, justful way. It's just so much going on. It has been going on for a very long time, Lord. So I just pray that you just protect those that are out there in the midst of this, that nobody gets hurt. I know there have been some people to get hurt, Lord. Heal the families that have to still deal with another additional um, situation, Lord. It's really not the most healthiest things, Lord, but I just pray that people are really learning to work through these in the very best light. Lord, we just love you and we praise you and we thank you for everything you continue to do for us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So each week I challenge you all to think about some things that you did over the last week that was positive and that brought you joy and a smile to your face. It's very important that we do that every day of our lives, but if we're not able to, just try to remember during the week at least one time that you felt, well, I felt pretty good this day. I didn't allow stress to overtake me. I didn't allow my children to overwhelm me. So it's important to take those time outs for ourselves. And so this week for myself, I did something that was kind of odd for me. I love colors. I love bright colors. And so I was in the ballpark of trying to find some bed sheets to just allow me to rest and just liven me up. And so I bought some really bright yellow bed sheets. And when I tell you, every time I look at those sheets, I smile, I'm excited. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a great sleep. That was just something that just brought joy to me this week. As odd as it sounds, it really truly did. So that was something that I did this week. I also challenge my parents this week to watch a funny movie. Um, and watch it with your kids. I'm not suggesting that you go and get a Kevin Hart or Eddie Murphy movie and watch it with them, but watch something that's funny. Shrek is a funny movie you can watch with your children. Any Disney movie pretty much or Pixar movie is to me funny. I love cartoons. Spend time with your children and do something funny like that. Um, Another thing that is very, very important is to get out and volunteer. We are all going through this together. It took me a second to actually get into that mode, in all honesty, because I had to work through the anxiety that I was feeling. Oh, wow, excuse me. I did not know my phone was up that loud. Um, but I had to work through the anxiety that I was feeling. And then I thought about I had to get out of myself and realize that there are other people that are far worse than what I am experiencing right now. And so to get out and volunteer and help others brings joy to my face. Um, I go to a local food pantry here every other week and I'm volunteering. I'll be there on Tuesday. And I'm happy that the question was brought to my attention because I really had never done that level of volunteering. But when I tell you, I'm ready to go. Let's get this going. Whatever y'all need me to do, I'm there. I'm here. And I'm happy about doing that. And it's something that I'm adding into the schedule of my daily life to actually spend time doing that. Um, I have been volunteering since I was a kid, and I needed to really step it up as an adult. So I'm very, very excited with that. And I encourage you all to take the time to figure out what are you good at and share it with others because you don't need to keep it to yourself. Share it with others and that definitely will bring joy to your life. All right. One last thing that I would like to challenge you all to do as well is how many of you all actually sit down and write letters? Not many people. In our technology advancements in this world, we send emails, we send text messages, but who actually sits down and it probably can recall how to write a letter? I've been doing that with a loved one, and I've been very creative in doing that. I love pens, ink pens, and so I write with different colors. And I just found myself writing pages upon pages of things to this person. And so I found that was fun. And I've been teaching my niece and nephew because that's one of the things they're lacking right now in knowledge of knowing how to actually format and write a letter, even addressing an envelope. And so that was a very fun thing to teach them and to get back into the flow of writing letters. That is fun. So I encourage you, if there's someone, even if you talk to this person on a daily basis, shock them and send them a letter to their house. They'll be excited and happy as well to see what in the world they're writing to me. We just talked on the phone, but it's something different and something that we need to get back to doing. So those are some tips on some self-care activities that you can engage in. So today I have two lovely ladies, professional women, Black women, that are here to talk about how you can work through this pandemic and the resiliency that you should have, or hopefully you do have, and just addressing the things that's coming about in your life. I have Dr. Tracey Marshall and Dr. Kenisha Gordon. I'm going to ask that Dr. Gordon goes on first, and she's just going to give you some tips and feedback, and then I have Dr. Marshall give tips and feedback as well. And if you all feel comfortable enough, you all can kind of interchange some ideas and comments, and we could just have this brief discussion about what people need to really just incorporate into their lives on how to really work through everything that's going on. All right.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I hope you are having a wonderful Saturday. It's nice weather outside. When Ms. Harper asked me to participate, one of the things that she talked about, and we often chat about just kind of what parents are going through, especially during this time. Right now, you're having to spend a lot of time with people who you generally don't spend a lot of time with. So you're able to see different behaviors and different personalities, and you're also finding out new things about yourself. And so I will apologize because I just started talking. Let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Dr. Kenisha Gordon. I am a licensed professional counselor supervisor, a national accredited counselor. I'm also a registered play therapy supervisor. I'm awfully bad about introductions, so I usually forget a lot of things that are about me. I work at a local university. I teach counseling courses to um, graduate students. I've been doing that for a while, so teacher as well, but definitely counselor, just because that's one way to engage with people. Also, me learning about myself and learning about them, and just trying to really make our community better in terms of relationships. I have two little ones. I'm married, and so that's always a different type of work. Um, let's see, I've worked with, in terms of populations that I've worked with and areas that I'm interested in, of course, children and adolescents, and because they don't usually come as a package separately, they're with families, and so I do work with families as well. I've worked in just about every setting except for geriatric population, but definitely have seen a lot of things. I'm always looking forward to how to communicate differently, and addressing everybody's needs or different people's needs, and helping them find their own strengths and their own directions. And so definitely when, again, Ms. Harper asked me to come on, that was something that she and I talked about in terms of just sharing that knowledge. That's something that I never want to do, is to have the knowledge and not share it. And so that's really my purpose today. Most of the things that I will probably say won't, you maybe not have thought about, or you have done it already. And if you have done it, congratulations to you for finding that out. So I won't be very long, and I just have a few pointers because I definitely want to hear from Dr. Marshall in terms of how she's seeing this whole situation play out. One of the things that I've been in communication with some colleagues about is just, again, how we're spending our time. One of the first things that I always tell parents is take some time for yourself first. And that's usually the hardest thing to do, based on what your kids' ages are, what their needs are. And so none of this is prescriptive. It's not, you're having a cough here, have some cough medicine. Everything has to be tailored to you. So even if that's a sacrifice for me, I stay up late, but I try to get up really early before other people's feet start moving in my house. And that allows me some time to meditate, to pray. Exercise is really good. So I try to do all those things for myself first. And that definitely means getting up early. I have some early risers, so I have to get up even earlier than they do in order to do that. Personally, for me, if I go several days without doing that, it shows up in my behavior and attitude. So one of the first things I tell parents, if it's possible, spend even if it's 5 minutes. That might be going to the bathroom, closing the door, because that's the only time that you're able to be by yourself. If you're in there, just bring a notebook in there. Keep a notebook in the bathroom with you. That's one thing Ms. Harper and I talked about, is write one line, start one line. What are you grateful for today? And that can be your time. That can be maybe how you say, okay, I want to make sure I do this one thing today. Start really small. And then that way you can celebrate frequently, because you will accomplish a lot more things when you start small. The other thing I would tell parents, and I'm all these things I'm saying to you are things that I do. And I wouldn't lie to you and say that it's easy. It's never just do it and it'll happen, or you wish for it and it'll happen. With your kids, again, they spend the majority of their lives at school and you're at work. So even if you're returning to work, your kids are still with you at home. And so spending that time for yourself first. One of the things that I'm finding too is kids, they depend on you a lot. Now, how you address that, whether you set up a situation where they're very dependent on you, that's really something you've got to sit down and think about. How much do I want them to depend on me? In terms of meeting their needs. There are needs and then there are wants. Most of the time when I'm talking to parents, it's the wants that are driving them crazy, because I want this, I want that, I want this. And so being able to sit down and really say, okay, is this something that you need, or is this something that you want? Um, Communication is also a good thing. If you've got kids who are old enough to understand rules, you've got to set structure. That is something that I preach all the time: structure, expectations. There's nothing like starting out a new system or a new project and there are no expectations. You can't plan for everything, but if I know what to expect, if I'm a kid and I know that my mom doesn't like such and such, well, that's my responsibility. But it's also the parents' responsibility to set up that expectation, set up the structure. Um, right, I think at the beginning of this pandemic, it was so new to everyone that there's nothing, you can really figure out what to structure. But as the weeks proceeded, then I think people were able to say, okay, well, this is probably for the long haul, And so I tell people, and I have parents, make sure your kids get up in the morning, put on clothes, don't stay in pajamas all day, go outside if it's not raining. Have kids in the kitchen cooking with you. I know Ms. Harper talked about that in terms of how to bring kids in. One of the things that really help is keeping your kids involved in different things, not screen time. And I'm not a big proponent of tablets and notebooks and phones. I think they're great if used in the right way, just like everything else in moderation is really good. But when it's excessive, then we lose certain qualities as humans in terms of how to communicate, how to hold a conversation, how to get our needs met in an appropriate way. And I think when we sit our kids, or we ourselves as adults sit and we spend a lot of time on technology, then we lose some things and we lose the connection. And this is the best time to connect with your kids, to find out about them. And so keeping your kids involved, having that structure. So saying, hey, even though you're not in school, we're still going to do some schoolwork. We're still going to learn. You can ask any teacher, the worst time for them is the summer, because kids lose certain skills and then they have to come back and start fresh. And that's the most difficult thing for teachers. So you can have school activities. They don't have to be textbook. Doing things outside, that's a lesson. Anytime you are spending time with your kids, they are learning from you, whether that's good behavior or bad behavior. So like Ms. Harper said, if you're writing letters, that's excellent, because guess what? Now they are learning how to do whatever it is that you're doing. So everything that you're doing is in fact a lesson for them. Having them again involved in the kitchen, in cooking, cleaning. I mean, everything that you would normally do, give something to your kids to do. I have a little one, he's 4, and one of the things that we're doing is once I take the clothes out the dryer, separate the socks, and it's your own sock duty. It's something small, but he's involved and I'm with him. And so a lot of times when kids are constantly asking something from us or pulling something from us, that's because we've either given them too much time or not enough time. So it is about finding that great balance. And if you can get some free help, it's always great. The other thing I will say that I've been in communication with colleagues about is taking a pause before you answer questions. Kids, because they're with you now, there's so many questions that they have. And so physically inhaling and exhaling before you respond decreases that tone that you have when you're maybe frustrated or you can't answer them right then. But that 1 second really can determine how you communicate with a loved one. It doesn't have to be your kids. It can be your spouse. It can be your partner. It can be your parents. But before you respond, take a second to breathe and then respond. Just because a lot of relationships can be broken or repaired at this time. And so how you communicate is going to be a really big one. And learning how to do that, finding out how you communicate and how you want people to communicate with you is really important. One of the things that I will say works across the board, regardless if you're 2 to 99, when you're talking with someone, one of the first things to do is to look at them, which you can't do if you're looking at technology. So look at them before you respond. Recognize what the body language is saying. Hear what the tone of their voice is. Listen to the words before you say anything so that you don't automatically become defensive. Again, that's where that relationship can be broken in those few seconds. And then one of the things is acknowledge the person for what they might be feeling. Even with kids right now, it's a lot of kids, they have no clue of what's going on. Then you also have kids who are with parents that watch TV and news all day, and they are so scared and so anxious and fearful. So communicate or acknowledge, hey, I know you're scared, and then start the conversation. Or I know you're worried, or I know you're excited. Acknowledge what they might be feeling. Also for you, it's important that you do that too, in a place where you're saying, you know what, I'm really frustrated. Give me 5 minutes and I will come back and we can talk about this, right? But acknowledging and naming what that emotion is such a powerful thing that I don't know how many people really recognize that and can feel the power in terms of how strong recognizing the emotion can be for other people, especially once it becomes a pattern, then your kids or your partner or even yourself, you'll recognize it and then figure out a different way to respond. And so that's been some of the big takeaways for me during this time and some of the things I've been talking with parents about as well. I think after a while, everybody needs a break. So one of the things you might want to do today is have everybody who's in your house say where their space is. If I'm in that space, if I'm in the corner in the living room, then I need 5 minutes there. If I'm sitting at the dinner table, that's my space. I need that space. And I think it's important that everybody take a break during the day, even if that's collectively as a family, and say, hey, at 5 o'clock, everybody's going to break and go in their own corners. Do whatever you need to do as long as you take that break. Then we can come back and get back to whatever we were doing. So everybody needs some space. Everybody needs to set boundaries, healthy boundaries. I think the other thing that I would advise people to do is have boundaries, but also spend time together. So again, getting to know each other in a different way, because this is really a challenging time. Financially, I think it's important that we talk to kids about what that is, because again, the difference between needs and wants. So saying, hey, I don't have the money for that right now, but I will put that on the list and maybe we can work on it when mama starts back working or we get some money back in the house. And also explain to kids it's not your responsibility to try to get money for us. We will get the things that we need some way. And that way, again, you're eliminating worry or them taking on responsibility that they don't have to. I think those have been some of the biggest things. One other thing that's come up for me that a parent shared with me is when they have siblings. Again, I have 2 little ones. They're close in age. And so when they spend too much time together, it's a mess. They're loud. And so one of the things I would say is, again, separate your children at times if you can, even if you don't have rooms independently. Everybody's got a corner in the house. Give each person their corner, get some coloring books, get something that each person can do separately. But every person needs to have a separation time. So having a structured time where we have family time. And I know I heard Ms. Harper saying that. So maybe at 6 o'clock, we're going to sit down and have dinner together. At 6 o'clock, we're going to play a game, a card game, something. At 3 o'clock, everybody's going to go break into their own corners, but have some type of structure where people are together and then separate, together and separate. So set up a pattern for the expectation as well. But again, take some time for yourself as the leader of the household to make sure that everybody's taken care of, but you can't take care of everybody if you're not taking care of yourself.
All right, that was awesome information. All right, Dr. Marshall, what additional information can you provide for us today?
Alrighty, well, first of all, hi everybody. My name is Dr. Tracey Marshall. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I own Butterfly Counseling. And so I hear from a lot of parents, also a lot of colleagues who have who have children at home. And now with us doing counseling over telemedicine, I found it to be quite difficult, for one, finding a quiet spot in the home to have my sessions and even to just complete my notes. So that's a challenge. But I've learned that even when I'm working, if my child is not in my presence, I'm still a parent. And I knew that, but this time has brought a greater awareness of that for me, because I'm understanding better the needs of my child personality wise. We spent a lot of time together before, but that time was either going to school, coming from school, going to sports, here and there. We spent a lot of time in the car, but now we're spending a lot of time in the house, which is something my child is not accustomed to because we're always engaged in something. So I've had to kind of learn him all over again, and personality, habits, and all of those things, and just kind of get re-familiar with the person my child is now. But one of the things we have always done is movie night. And that was typically once a week before, but it seems that movie night has become an almost every night thing since this has been going on. And I did not realize before during movie night, because I was working and we were doing so much running back and forth, I would fall asleep before the movie is over. But now I realize I'm staying awake through the entire movie and we can discuss the movie when it's over. So, and my child really enjoys movie night, and I did not realize that until now, how important it was to him. So I can appreciate that time because I felt like that was just something I was doing to spend time with him, and that was important for me. But to just see how important it is to him and how much of a big deal it is to him, that warms my heart as a parent. But also, even I think as a therapist, people kind of think that we have it all together all the time, and we're human too. We're safer at home, shelter in place, quarantine with everybody else. And so those things that we had become accustomed to doing, we weren't able to do anymore, just like, everybody else. And so there were adjustments that had to be made emotionally. I know for me, just being in and learning to be still, learning to be in the home full time and cooking every day. So it's a different situation now. But it's important to me, and I think all of us can agree on meditation, because I get up in the morning and I still wake up 5:30 like I normally do. And I, read my scriptures, I meditate. But one of the things that I had been doing, and I do more now, is I would write prayers on paper, and I keep what I call a prayer box. And I've taught my child to write prayers. We put them in the prayer box, and I pray over the prayer box. And that's one of the things that has really helped me, because not only am I journaling in a sense, getting my emotions out on paper, but I'm also putting my requests and my hopes for the future on paper as well. And so that has really helped me a lot. Now I only have one child, but we have dogs, so it's still I'm sorry, I think it's muted. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I'm in the home, and even if I try to find a quiet space from my son, the dog still finds me. And so I find myself, sometimes I have to maybe go outdoors by myself, or, just go stand by the car or go in the backyard. And one of the things that I've started doing, I planted some tomatoes. And so I like to, deal with plants and things of that nature. But that was just something else to help me get out of the house, because I have to go out to see about those things and make sure, they're taken care of. And that's just my little project that I can have just for me. But also with my child, he likes to write. So one thing we do, and I encourage him to do, is put his stories on paper. Let's start writing them down, because we would discuss them in the car when we were back and forth and here and there, but he didn't write them down. So driving to soccer, tennis, wherever, we would discuss these different books and what can go in the book, and, you know, just kind of work the book out in our head. But now we can sit and talk and get it out on paper and make it a full story. And so that really helps him as well. Um, I know you can tell that I'm in my car because we've had the opportunity to return to one of his sports today, which was good for the both of us, because that allowed him to become active again. But it also gave me a sense of normalcy, being back in one of our elements, you know, allowing him to be out in the sunshine as well as myself. And even though there weren't a lot of people around, there were maybe 4 or 5 on different tennis courts. So there were other people involved, and it looked like something that, you know, we've seen before. So I think it's very important to not so much focus on the past, where we were, where we came from, but to live in the moment, and pay attention to what we're doing now, what we have now, and the importance of spending time with each other, because we're so separate from other relatives, you know, people that we would have been doing things with all the time, maybe going out to eat or going shopping and those things. We haven't been able to, you know, get together with some of those people because of all the things that are going on. But the people that we do have in our home, our children, spouses, whomever resides in the home, I think we should just focus on the time that we get to spend with them, because when we get into the everyday hustle and bustle of, you know, working and school and all of that, we really don't get to spend the amount of time that we think we spend with them. Because with children being in school, you know, once they get home from school, homework and dinner, it's time to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And we really only get to spend the weekend with them. Those of us who don't work on the weekends, or, you know, and if a child is involved in the sports, then that's not really spending that one-on-one time, because they're busy playing a sport and we're there as a spectator and in support of them. So this actually gives us the opportunity to actually spend that one-on-one time with children, with those relatives we can be in contact with. And also that early morning meditation, which I like to meditate in the morning because I can hear the birds singing. It's quiet in the morning. It just gives me a sense of peace and calmness where I feel like I can connect. And so I think it's really important for all of us to take time, like Dr. Gordon said, you know, take that time for ourselves, because we can't take care of our families if we're not well. You know, when you get on the airplane, the first thing they tell you, if the plane goes down, you take care of you first, and then you help your neighbor. And so we have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of each other. And that's the only way that I think we can be the best parents we can be for our children.
All right. Wonderful information, wonderful encouragement. Um, it's just so much that you all, the both of you all presented, that just really got me going, that I really hope parents are taking heed to, and that to sum up basically what the both of you have said is a feeling that I've been having over the last 2 months, and that this time has been a blessing because it has allowed us to see that we were just moving too fast. We were in these routines and we were doing everything that we needed to do for ourselves and for our children. So we thought, and then this particular situation happened and it slowed us down, and it made us really sit back and say, you know what, I really don't know this kid that well like I thought
Right.
I did, or I really don't know my husband. I've read some articles where a lady said, I really don't know my husband. But this time has allowed us to refocus on really just building those relationships. And I like what you said, Dr. Gordon, about this can either, you can either, your relationships can be either broken at this point or repaired. And I really, really hope parents are repairing their relationships with their spouse or relationships with their children, or even at a distance, because you've had families that just depended so much on each other that maybe was not as healthy as it should have been. And now this has, it flipped it. And I've had conversations even with my mother about we're all on this baseline now. We're all on an even keel, whether you're a celebrity or just a common citizen. We're all on the same baseline right now.
Mhm.
So it's up to us to flip things where the entertainers and the athletes were on the higher end of the podium or the totem pole. And now it's the doctors, it's the grocery store workers, it's everybody else, the essential workers, as they've said it, that are more important, that should have been very important
Mhm.
um, beforehand. And so I really just hope that the parents are taking heed to this information because it's so, so, so important, not just for this time, but for the long haul. We have to reestablish a new norm because what we had before, yeah, it worked, but we probably had more people that were stressed out. We had more depression that was going on, more anxiety, and things of that nature. Unfortunately, some of this is still going to be here, such as the depression. I read an article this morning where um, those that have loved ones in nursing homes, from the loved ones to the people, the families that can't get to them, the depression rate is going up high, where, you know, if you just don't have the will to live, this is why the numbers are looking like that. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm very candid and honest. These COVID numbers, if you look at the detail of where the people are mentally, because if your mental isn't together, you don't have that will to live. And so, yeah, COVID was the reason why, but not necessarily the virus within the person. So I would be curious to see how that maps out. I also agree with the prayer box. That is something that I would love to do. Write prayers down and really just incorporate that with my niece and my nephew. Right now we got them started on doing devotionals. My niece, it took them a minute to get into their routine because it was just like, hey, we had prayer meeting, but we didn't have devotional. We had church time, but we didn't have devotionals. And so just getting them into that new ritual, that new routine has been very vital for them. And I also love separation time. Oh my goodness. I just go outside. They just like, where are you going? You coming back? Yeah, I'm coming back. I just gotta take a little me time. I'll go out here in this garage for a second. But it's vital. I'm blessed to be in a situation where the space is adequate. But I do know that there are some families that live in a one bedroom apartment, and they may have 4 or 5 people in that apartment.
Exactly.
So I do get that. But as Dr. Gordon said, there are corners to these apartments, to these homes. And so you do have to take that time out. So I greatly appreciate you, Dr. Marshall, for your feedback, as well as you, Dr. Gordon. Um, as we wrap up this group, I'm constantly challenged as to what can you do with your children over the summer. I've talked about bubble parties. I've talked about getting outside and just creating activities that you probably did when you were a child, and now, hey, go back to it, like jumping rope. I love to jump rope. I haven't done it in a while, but that's one of my childhood things that I enjoyed doing. And as I was sitting here, I realized that putting puzzles together as a family is something fun to do. Not the jumbo size,
Mhm.
because it's probably going to take you about 2 minutes to do it, but get the 1,000-piece puzzle and put it on the table or whatever, and bring that activity together as a family. And you could do that over the summer because it's going to take you a
Right.
minute.
Mhm.
um, and so, do you all have any feedback as to what are some activities that parents can do with their children over the summertime um, that would be that would be fun? Because some activities can be kind of dull, but just some fun activities the parents can do.
I think for me, my son and I both, we like to read. So maybe a book challenge, see who can read the most books if you have a child who likes to read. Also, I like plants and, like I said, planting things. So my child has expressed an interest in wanting to grow a plant. So starting off with something small and even getting them involved with, what kind of plant it is. And that helps them learn and kind of keep some of those skills over the summer. Because one of the things I've been discussing with my child is, you guys haven't been in school since March. And so with the things that you lose over the summer and the things that you missed from being in the classroom, we have to kind of stay ahead of the game, so to speak, with our academics. So anything that I can use at home and make a teachable moment, cooking, using measuring tools to keep up with math and the plants and things like that to keep up with science and the reading. I think those are a big part of the things that children fall behind with over the summer. I know with my child, by the time August comes and he's been in sports and video games and all of that, and school starts and it's like, math, what is that? And so I try to use those things at home to try and incorporate some of that academic stuff. I don't want to bombard him or weigh him down with those things, but I try to make them fun and use the things that are of interest to him, like writing the stories, that keeps him engaged in reading and language arts. So just using those things that they enjoy as a part of your household things you do.
And I like to piggyback off of that. For my niece and nephew this summer, um, and it was before I knew it, my nephew came up with the schedule. He said, "This is what we're going to do each day of the week." I said, "Okay, great. You're being proactive. We're going to go with that. I'm going to type it out, and this is what we're going to do." And so then I enlisted my niece to come up with the menu for the week, because she's been in the kitchen the most with me, learning how to do different meals and so forth. And so she said, "Okay, yeah, that's what I'll do." So we're going to have a summer camp at the house. We got a lot of different activities. They know that we're going to go and do some school work because, as you stated, Dr. Marshall, I really don't want them to get behind. I want them to get ahead. And so I've ordered DVDs. We'll be doing some worksheets where the school has enlisted some stuff that they can do online, and whatever additional things that, because there are a lot of free things that are out there online. All you have to do is just Google whatever you need, whatever grade level the child is on, and print those things out if you're able to. If not, hey, you probably have to go the old-fashioned way and just copy it down by hand, but it can be done. There's nothing out here that will prevent you from really engaging with your child and helping them to continue being educated during the summer. So that is very, very important. All right, Dr. Gordon, any feedback?
No, I was just listening to the both of you. I think you both made some really good points. One of the things that I usually advise parents to do is I'm big with structure. And so allotting certain time so that way your mind can say, okay, well, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes. I'm going to do this for an hour. So like Dr. Marshall said, and you alluded to in terms of education, spend about an hour. It's still summer. Kids need to have fun, need to have breaks. Block out an hour. Maybe that's 15 minutes of doing math, 15 minutes of reading, but have a block of just pure learning where they're sitting down. That helps with the attention span. And if you schedule it at a certain time every day, then they know, okay, I got to get my book out, and they're not going to be happy about it, but you will be happy knowing that they are getting something, right? So I would say block out a time of education. Like your nephew said, here's the schedule, here's what we're going to do today. And then also block out another hour or 30 minutes where it's just pure entertainment. One of the things I advise parents to do is go through the house, find things that you already have. Don't go buy anything if you don't have to. Straws, cotton balls, you have to really be creative. Internet is a great place. It's also a scary place, but it's a great place to get information. Tape, glue, all the things that, safety pins, rocks. Rock painting is really, it helps, and that's something that I usually advise parents who have kids that have ADHD. Paint rocks. It sounds silly, but when you can get a kid to focus and you're with them and you can talk about things, one of the things that I usually do with my kids, try to on a daily basis, I say, hey, what's the favorite part of your day today? Right? They're not at school, but hey, depends on what they say, it can be a good report for me or really a horrible report for me. You know, like if they say, I didn't do anything fun today, okay, we're gonna try it again tomorrow. That's gonna be my goal, is to make sure you enjoy something that day. But again, going through the house, finding stuff that you already have. doing an egg hunt, and it doesn't even have to be eggs. Hide things in the house and say,
Yeah.
hey, throughout the day, if you can find something, this item for the day, you will get whatever the
Mm-hmm.
reward is,
Yeah.
right? That also is a learning tool, because we need kids to be able to get up and go look for things themselves, so they
Right.
don't call you and say, Mom, I can't find this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one game that you can play in the house.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I would say Play-Doh. Um, the thing that I go back to, and this is from my childhood, um, we would look at the sky and try to figure out what the clouds look like. I
Yeah.
mean, really just
Yeah.
going back to some of the simple things.
Yeah.
And then even if it's going to the technology things, kids are on games. And I limit the time that they're on games too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's structured in my house.
Mhm.
That's include myself. Hey, we're going to do 30 minutes. You pick a game, whatever you're going to do on your tablet or whatever, 30 minutes. But also, if you want to use that time, say, hey, show me what you're doing on your game. Oh, okay. So this guy to learn about what they know about, right? And
Mhm.
then you can take those same things and apply it outside. You know, when you were having a hide under that tree or whatever on the game, guess what? We can probably have to do that when we do this. You got to figure out and how to problem solve. So take the
Mm-hmm.
things that they learn and then apply it to everyday life. Um, Outside games, ton of them. Um,
Yes.
Exercising is always a good one, right? Challenging every day. How many jumping jacks can we do? How much of
Mm-hmm.
this can we do? So for me, I'm always trying to engage parents, because I think some parents feel restricted because they feel like they have to give their kids like the top notch things.
Yeah.
But it's
Mhm.
really the simple things, especially when you tell them, hey, this is what I did when I was your age. They get more interested. They're like, oh, well, we don't talk about that. How'd you do that?
Mhm.
Right. And so you really want to get them interested. But for me, it's more about the simple things. If it's free or cheap, I am all about it. Like you said, puzzles. Um, even if you make your own puzzle, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
possible too. Make your own puzzle.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm all about finding things that you already have at the house.
Yeah. Because I got to thinking, wow, I used to make mud pies outside, just being in
Yeah.
the dirt or digging, trying to find bugs in the ground. So yeah, and that's another
Yeah.
thing that I'll have them do this summer as well. Now I did buy a kit for it,
Mhm.
but once they saw the kit, they was like, "Oh, I can go and catch a butterfly with this net, or I can go out here and
Exactly.
explore this." So yeah, it's a lot of things that can be done over the summer. So I'm very, very excited to actually
Mhm.
reconnect with my childhood and sharing that with children, period.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. This is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. May is mental, or has been mental health month, with the focus on children as well, and just everybody as a whole. And so it was my goal to bring forth professionals in the mental health field that can give feedback about things that you can incorporate in your life that you probably didn't even think that were
Mhm.
focusing on your mental health. That was the slick part of what
Right.
I did this time around. But I hope that this month that everyone that participated and viewed the series of push reset support group videos, that you learned something that you can actually
Mhm.
utilize, not for this time but for the duration. um the month of June is Men's Health Month, and it's my intention to have a panel of men talk about their health and just encourage how you can incorporate healthy living as a man, because men are afraid to go to the doctors. Men are afraid to do anything that's going to really look at them on the inside, because we're going to find out some stuff. And so I will be sharing that information, as well as bringing back Push Reset support group for the month of July. July is Minority Mental Health Month. And so I want to incorporate more speakers to come in and just shed light on how people of color are dealing with their mental health, especially during this year alone. We've had so many
Mhm.
things, especially here in Mississippi. We went through a flood, and then this pandemic, and then not only that, but things that are happening across the country that we are seeing on social media and how that is impacting us internally. It's so important that we really get help for that. And I'm not ever afraid to say that um, if you're having problems, get a therapist. We as therapists have therapists as well.
Mhm.
And it's so vital. It just, it warms my heart to know that I can call on a therapist to help me work out the things that, I learned in school and I've taught other people, but just to have that
Mhm.
brought back to me to help recenter me is so important and vital.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we're going to be talking about all of those things. But once again, this is Push Reset Parent Support Group. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And if you have any questions, please hit up our Facebook page of Be Undefeated Therapeutic Solutions, at Be Undefeated TS, if you have any questions or concerns. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Welcome.
you.